everyone, Amanda here, thanks for joining me. So I thought today I would share making a few clean and simple embellishments for my shabby winter blues journal. So I'm mostly going to be using the labels page from my kit. So this is how the page comes. I've already cut into it. This is how the page comes, and I've printed it two to a page to get these smaller ones to make little embellishments. So let's get started. So I've fussy cut them all. I've got a pile of labels, I've got some die cut shapes. I've printed one of the background sheets from the kit onto cardstock, one of the darker blue ones, and these are just random die cut shapes. They just happen to be a rectangle with stitched and scalloped edge. I've got some little mini doilies. I've got some little punched flowers. This is a little punch, just very cheap from Amazon, tiny little flower. I've cut some of these, what I call banners, okay, and I've also got some paper clips. These are fabulous. So these are die cuts. I've had them a very long time. They were a Project Life die cut set, but I know that there are other sets round and about with paper clips in, but the idea is to have a look in your die collection and see what you've got and just cut simple shapes. You know, you could just punch circles if you don't have a scalloped circle, and if you don't have a die like this, then you can cut those by hand very easily. So let's get started. Okay, so I've sped the video up ever so slightly because I ended up creating for about half an hour. I had great fun. So I'm edging things with the same ink that I've used throughout my journal so that we've got consistency, and so it looks super pretty. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along. I figured that speeding it up, you could just have a look at kind of my process. So layering up just simple die cut images will give you lovely, what I call clean and simple embellishments. So we're often, you know, it's popular to make your embellishments by ripping up scraps and having them tatty looking, which is fantastic, but also you can make them a little bit more structured and use your die cuts. We've all got them. Have a look in your die cut sets. Those fiddly little dies that often come in sets where you think, well, what am I ever going to use that for? Those shapes are perfect to make little embellishments, and you're still using up your scraps because you make these using the offcuts. Now, to add structure to them so they're not floppy as it were, I have printed on cardstock for my embellishments, and then the die cuts I've used offcuts. You know, I save them, larger offcuts I save. So I've used up my leftovers and scraps for these. So just by simple layering, you can get some really lovely looks. You could use them to add your sentiments to. If I haven't added sentiments to my kit because I think you can just simply type whatever words you want on your PC and print them out. It's so simple, in a smallish font, and larger font if you so desire. But also most people have got quite a large collection of stamps that are very underutilised, so get them out and get stamping. So here I'm stamping just some numbers. This is from a Tim Holtz set, and I'm doing what's called second generation stamping. That's a fancy word for making it so that the ink is just a little less vivid. So you put the ink on your stamp, you stamp once on some scrap paper, and then you stamp onto your item. That way it's not really dark colour, you know, so really dark black against a little shabby embellishment would be harsh, so that's why we do second generation stamping. So then just layering up the colours, having a different colour between the layers, and if you've got similar colours, like I've got the white doilet and the white banner, then I've inked the banner to make it stand out. The little flower punch is one of my best purchases. I think it cost me about £2, and it's perfect for little embellishments. All you need to do is punch it out using scrap paper or scrap card and add a tiny little rhinestone, or if you've got something like Nouveau drops or glitter drops or whatever you use for your little embellishments, and look how cute that looks. Now here I'm showing you that you can then go further and add it to lace if you want, or scraps of fabric, which looks amazing. I'm going to make all of my embellishments and then I'll decide as I'm adding them to the journal if I want to put fabric on them or whether I just want to leave them. But you can use up your scraps of fabric and layer them behind. These look fantastic on the back of envelopes like I'm demonstrating there, on your tuck spots, just decorating the side of a page, anywhere where you can put a little embellishment to just brighten up a spot in your journal is where they would go. And making them in advance, so you've got, you know, just spending an hour or so making a batch of maybe 10 or 15 whilst you've got your supplies out, you know, is the best way to go. And then once your journal's ready, all you've got to do is put them in. I find that doing the prep work for the journal beforehand makes your life a lot easier. So here I'm using the little banner again, but I've cut it in half. So there's lots of different ways you can use your die cuts as well. By cutting it in half, it looks like a little ribbon tails, and then I can put something in the middle to cover over, like that little number label there. Layering it up on another darker label to give myself the colour layers. And I will trim it to size. You know, if something doesn't fit what you want, make it fit, just trim it down. And then that will look perfectly layered up on there. So you've got the layer, like I've said earlier, of the different colours, so that each layer stands out nicely. And that looks really cute. And it's so simple. You don't need to be, you know, a really advanced crafter to be able to do this. It's just a case of just layering. Here I'm deciding whether I want to add some lace to them. I decide that adding the lace to the furthest back layer will be best, and that way I can pick a fabric that I've got plenty of and maybe use the same fabric throughout the journal so that it all coordinates. Because I think when journals coordinate and you've got consistency with things like this, it draws the eye and it makes everything look really pretty. So just adding the little flower again. So here I'm just using minimal supplies and just changing it up ever so slightly for each one, so they're all going to coordinate, they're all going to look similar, but they won't be exactly the same. And here I'm sharing another layout idea. So again, using the banners because I like them. You know, if you find something that you like, just keep on using it. I'm just putting it in a different position. Instead of across the middle, I'm going to have it just peeking out off the edge of the rectangle there. And I'm using the same labels to layer up, just different colours each time. And just slightly changing the design and the layout. And just keep going. Keep layering until, like I say, you've got a nice batch. And these labels they just layer up lovely. When they're printed to a page and you've got that smaller size, it's just perfect. And it's quite what I call mindful, which means you don't really have to think an awful lot about it. You can just sit with your videos playing or your audiobooks or your music playing, or however you choose to enjoy your crafting, and just make them. Have a look in your stash. I was thinking about using the mother of pearl buttons, which I love, but decided that they were a little bit big and a little bit bulky for this particular project. So I'm sticking with what I know looks good, and that is the little flowers and the rhinestones, and just repeating the same thing. And then I will know that next time I do a project, maybe in different colours, that combination and that idea works nicely. Now here's something else you can do with your die cuts. Seasoned crafters will know that you can cut them in half and elongate the shapes. So here, by cutting it in half and adding it to either side of the rectangle, I'm making that circle look like it's oval, and so giving myself a larger embellishment. So always bear that in mind whenever you cut your shapes out. You can make them larger by doing things like that. Even rectangles and things, you can cut down the middle and make them larger. So we're getting a nice collection together there. This is one of the labels from the sheet before I shrunk them down. So that is just literally paper. It's not even cardstock. So again, I'm just inking and layering. I do find it easier with a little fine tipped glue bottle. They are the bane of my life because I don't think it matters which brand you use or where you get your bottle from. They do bung up, but I find that if you make sure you put the lid on each time, it will stay okay. And if you find that your fine tip glue bottle is really bunged up, put it in a cup of hot water, boiling hot water from the kettle, and leave it to soak. Maybe add a little bit of baking powder or baking soda that makes a bit of bubbles or a bit of fizz. Leave it to sit and then rinse it. That glue will dissolve and it will come out, and you can carry on using it. Don't be throwing them away. Just clean them intermittently. So the stamps are part of the kit, but I didn't shrink those down to a page, so I've decided that they'll save for another time. They're just too big. I need to keep everything in proportion so that it looks cute. This is, I think the number ones are my favourite. I do like numbers on embellishments. I don't know why I don't feel the need to put words on everything. So here I am layering this one up with a little bit of lace just to show you what it looks like. Always put the glue on the project and then add the lace, not the other way around, because if you're trying to add glue to lace, you can end up in a bit of a sticky mess. So look how cute that looks. And then add some fabric behind. I just paused for a moment there because my husband came home from work. Add the lace behind and see how lovely that looks. So like I say, with the rest of them, I may put lace behind them, but I'll do that later because I might decide that on some I do want lace and on others I don't. So if I do it as I'm adding it to the journal, then I can have a variety, because you don't have to put lace on everything. So here I'm getting my little paperclip die cuts and I'm doubling them up so that I've got the patterned paper on both sides. Also just gives it a little bit of strength, and those will look cute. There won't be an awful lot of embellishing that I can do to those. Even that tiny bit of lace is just too big. But they will look really cute. You can just slip them on your little pockets and your tucks as you would a normal paperclip, just for a little bit of extra fun. So yeah, I did manage to decorate one with the cut down little mini banners. Don't forget, if you don't have that punch, just cut a long rectangle and then cut the pointy bit by hand. It's so easy. There's lots and lots of different shapes you can use, and just get a selection like I have here of just 2 or 3 different shapes, and then add your embellishments. You don't need to overwhelm yourself by having heaps and heaps of stuff on your desk and boxes of things. Just pick a few and just repeat the use of them, but just in different ways. And then you're going to have, like I keep saying, a nice coordinated collection that all goes together beautifully. So we're getting a nice selection there, and once the video's ended, I'll carry on making them until I've got a nice batch of these ready for my journal. I am doing 2 journals, so I will probably utilise them and they'll all get used. And so here I am adding that scrap of lace. I think I was determined to use it. It was floating around on my desk. So layering that under the doily, it does just look pretty. So there you go. But these are also, there's just a great way to use up your scraps, and just get creative. But at the same time, you don't have to think too hard. So I might have spent 20 minutes or so looking through my die cutting some fabulous shapes and having a think, but then once you've done it, then you can just replicate it. So here I've cut my fussy cutting picture page. I've printed that down to a page as well to make those smaller for embellishments. So I'm doing one with a photographic image on of this lovely girl, which is one of the focal points in my kit, and I'm going to fussy cut her so that she's not too big, to keep her in proportion. It's not difficult to fussy cut, just move the keep the scissors in one position and then move the paper around, Yeah, it doesn't matter if you don't cut it perfect, because what you do is you just ink the edges, and that hides a multitude of sins, so don't worry, we won't tell anybody if you don't cut it straight. Okay, so there you go. As you can see, that looks really cute on the centre there. So you could have just the labels and the numbers, or you could fussy cut the images as well. So I was thinking there how else to extend that die cut, whether I could make it longer lengthways or not, but it's a little bit large for that. But what I could have done is had my label in portrait instead of landscape, and then put my numbers on so that it's a different orientation. And after the video I did go and do that, so that you've got them in different directions, so the rectangle can be facing the other way, and then that orientation will look really cool as like a side page cluster. So here I'm using part of the fussy cut kit again and layering up with the labels, and it's just a really fun process, and there's nothing more satisfying than knowing you've made all your own embellishments from scratch, rather than you know, going to the craft store and getting them from a box and sticking them on. Especially when you're making journals to sell, I think if you make your own embellishments, you're onto a winner, because then it's even more it makes your journal more unique, and it's going to make it more eye-catching for your buyer. So there we go. I'm coming to the end of the video now, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate all of the views, all of you who do return, and I will be back again soon with another fantastic idea using this lovely shabby winter blues kit. The link for the kit is in the description box below. So thanks for joining me. Go and get your die cuts out and make yourself some lovely, lovely embellishments. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.